would be that of Ringo. And as for J3X Inferno, there are 33 more heroes on the fold. They can ban out
34.
34. Excluding Ringo, it's 33. You know?
No, the Churnwalker makes it 35. If you scroll down there, it's 5 by 7, so yeah, 35.
Right, there you go. So
I'm really surprised by this Ringo ban. Ringo's not a hero that's like in the meta at all. He's barely ever picked. He's certainly not banned a lot. But obviously, the Black Feather going to be banned away by J3X Inferno. There's a lot more of a meta ban. Impunity straight away. They want to pick the Vox. They were clearly expecting the Black Feather ban. Now, J3X are probably a bit confused as to why Ringo is banned, but they just go through your draft strategy as you prepared it. Pick up whichever captain they want to prioritise. Perhaps it could be the Arden, maybe the Lyra. He said she doesn't feel that strong, but she has been banned away quite a lot, so that could be a good idea. They're going to go with the Adagio. Very different, a completely different meta to what we saw in the first game, except the Adagio is the only real constant with Black Feather. And so maybe that's going to be another weapon Adagio. Perhaps we're going to see a captain this time, maybe with a weapon carry and an assassin most likely to go onto this Vox. I think that'd be a smart idea. Go for an assassin, try and dive in. So the ban here, there's really anything they could go for. They could ban something like an Arden or a Lyra, whichever captain they don't want to play themselves. Could be a good ban for J3X.
Yep, and I think Adagio going up against Vox as a laner. In lane, would Adagio definitely come out on top in the early game. Only reason because Adagio's poke in the early game, as we mentioned, longest range in game as well. So Adagio definitely it's a suitable pickup as going up against Vox. But we do see the Celeste being banned out by the side of J3X Inferno, and that kind of boggles my mind. I mean, we did see Chingy bring out Celeste, and Celeste, as we agreed on, Shatterglass is the go-to first item, maybe followed by Dragon's Eye, if not then a Broken Myth, then Eve of Harvest or something afterwards. No matter how you build it, Celeste still has got a power spike at level 8. When she gets her item, she's just very, very strong because she can just lay down landmines. But as a ban, I personally don't think it should be prioritized. It shouldn't be of any form of emphasized at all from the side of J3X Inferno. However, we do see the Arden being banned out by Impunity, a much more meta ban coming through from the side of Impunity. The side of J3X Inferno, they can't really just settle for anything. They can't settle for an assassin if they want to. Assassin meta has been all the rage these days.
Yeah, I think Kestrel could also be picked. We saw a lot of Kestrel last game. He's a really good hero, even against Vox. In a straight 1v1, Kestrel's probably going to win that, especially given the range advantage you have, especially with Glimmer Shot. So I think that would be a reasonably good pick to try and, if not counter the Vox, try and play against the Vox in lane, unless they decide to go with the weapon Adagio, which you never know. Maybe J3X are going to pull that one out again from SEA. And so if they do that, they've obviously got Lyra, they've got Lance. We said Finn was played quite a lot by Renegade mainly, so maybe they're going to bring that out. And of course, Grace is still pretty strong. So the Arden ban is all right, but it's not really that much of a priority because there are so many other captains that can be picked.
I don't quite like Adagio being placed on the captain role, unless, of course, you tell me this particular Adagio that we might see on the captain role have got the gift of live talent, you know, granting the fortified health as well.
Yeah, he has the legendary talent. When he heals, when he ults, it does heal. But we're going to see the double heal comp. Ooh, old school from J3X, despite the fact they're up against a Vox who has guaranteed mortal wound as the first item.
And we will see a Rhyme coming through from the side of Impunity. A lot of talks have been on this Rhyme. We have seen constant and consistent bans of Rhyme in Vainglory 8, EU, and NA, but not quite yet in the FCA. A lot of people are just not, a lot of players are not prioritizing this Rhyme whatsoever. Granted, you can pick out the Sky, you can pick out something that outranges Rhyme and just play against it. But Rhyme is just so strong currently, and he is basically the king of jungle. Right? Maybe we might see an Aftershock Rhyme coming out from Impunity. I mean, they have quite a robust team of analysts behind that. And maybe Aftershock has been in talks. But there you go. We do see a Sky coming out from J3X Inferno. Sky does very well against a Rhyme, unless Rhyme builds very early movement speed. Get on top of Sky, root her in place, let her miss every single tick of forward barrage and just immediately just delete her from the fold with a Winter Spire into Valkyrie combo.
Yeah, I definitely think that the double route will be really important. Now the Impale land the Chill Winds route onto Sky, and then she's in a terrible position. I think the draft was really smart from Impunity. They picked the Vox as a priority pick, then went for Rhyme and whatever captain they wanted, because with a double hero comp, 9 times out of 10, you want that third hero to be someone tanky like Rona, Rhyme, Blackfeather, an assassin with tank, like a Glaive could work well. And so Rhyme counters most of those heroes. Because if they're tanky, Rhyme is more tanky, unless you pick up Cruel, which is all right, but it doesn't really work. It doesn't work well against Vox at all. And Lance is quite good against Cruel, so that was a smart draft. But then J3X just decided to flip the comp on its head, basically, and go, okay, we're going to have a double heal, but we're still going to not pick a bruiser or an assassin. We're just going to try and kite the Rhyme for days. And maybe it'll work. I think it's tough for J3X to execute this properly, because the healers don't really synergize with Sky that well. If Sky gets caught out, she's dead, even if she gets double heal, because of the Mortal Wound from Vox will reduce the healing. She has no barrier, no fortified health, or anything to try and stop Rhyme from being able to burst her down. I really like what Impunity have got, but as you said, it is down to whether Rhyme can boots in, land that stun, because if Rhyme boots is in and Sky boots is away, then Rhyme's kind of a sitting duck for either Dragon's Eye stacks or just for poke damage.
Yep, and we all know Nibim on the Sky is just insanely good. In fact, and we've seen Nibim on the Sky make plays for J3X Inferno, even turning and changing, just basically flipping games around. So this double Q comp, just supporting Nibim on the Sky, maybe it'll work. But overall, Baby will definitely be going on to the Weapon Adagio. In the early game, can push Vox out of lane. But Vox, like you mentioned, will definitely build the Poison Shift just for the extra sustain, firstly, in the early game, and the Mortal Wound that can be inflicted with one basic attack into a Sonic Zoom. So maybe that is something that J3X Inferno have to consider going into team fights. But overall, if you were to ask me, Impunity's draft just looks just a tad better, although the side of J3X Inferno has got the Sky.
They're definitely all about execution, as most of these drafts are. No one massively in the lead. We are now heading onto the fold for the first game of the second series, and casting this match will be the luscious Luxuria and the fantastic I Request a Duel.
Thank you, Mini Miter, for that introduction. And yes, we are here into the match, the side of Impunity and the likes of... I completely had a mind blank. J3X Inferno. And yeah, with that, I was definitely following alongside you guys with that draft there. And to see the Vox and Rhyme end up on one team, you've got this one team that's quite the current meta. These heroes that are both really strong right now. I mean, Vox has never really fallen out of the meta, to say the least. But when we look over to the side of J3X Inferno, they've got, you know, this double healing kind of comp, and the Sky pickup, which I don't think is bad at all if they're able to keep their distance and kite away, but there's going to be the lockdown coming out of Impunity as they go on to iBaby, picking up the first blood, following through with the second blood, and that is why this comp is probably going to work out well for them as long as Quisi can continue to land those impales. It provides an easy opportunity for Blue City to get onto those targets. None of the heroes really have very good ways of getting away from that, other than Sky with her target lock, of course, but it's not like you're going up against a Gwen in the lane who would be able to use the skedaddle to escape those kind of root moments. But here we see that Adagio might be alright in terms of going up against the Vox on his own. When we look at Adagio Vox, the kind of playoff there, the only problem is you've got to look at the whole team comps as a whole for each team, and I would have to say I'm preferring what Impunity's picked up for this draft.
Well, very similar thoughts here, but in the early game, definitely J3X Inferno will have the push in lane and the pressure as well. The range coming out from both Kahlua and Baby.
And it looks like Kahlua going to take a fair amount of damage. Blue City trying to catch them out, but we also see Nibim rotating up to the lane, putting the pressure down with that forward barrage. Blue City, meanwhile, keeping them at bay with the Winter Spires and looking for just any opportunity to go into them. But Kahlua on that Lyra is going to have an Imperial Sigil available to help with the sustain for the team. Been pushing in fairly aggressive here, looking for Quisi under the turret, gets him fairly low, going to use the Surge Strike to get around, but no one's going to be able to find the kill, taking a fair few shots from that turret, might just have to back off into the jungle, and could be looking to steal some away from the Rhyme. They will be able to take that mid-tree ant, and now Vox already forced to back it, or it looked like he is considering it, and this is the pressure that Baby's able to put down on his own. Now we do see Blue City getting pushed out of his own jungle on this Rhyme.
Yep, and I was saying earlier on how strong Rhyme is in the current meta. Although we saw some changes, saw some nerf onto Winter Spire, the initial damage and the explosion or the exploding damage for the Winter Spire as well. But coming into this, in order for Blue City to just catch up onto Bim, he must constantly have got his boots up. On top of that, besides the boots being up, he needs to have a 1-up in boots. So if Sky has got to travel, Rhyme must have the journey, right? In order to just to have the extra movement speed going up against Sky, so as to just land your basic attacks, and then of course land your Winter Spires and your Chilled Winds as well. But we do see a lot of pressure coming through from J3X Inferno. Look at how low QC and ZFQ are. They're just leaving Blue City on this little old feeble man to protect this and hold this turret.
Yes, but the old feeble man might be all they need, but it looks like Lance going to fall as he did stay around that turret. I'm not sure why he didn't back with Def Q. I believe especially in the early game, Blue City would have been able to hold it on his own on Rhyme. So especially once you get those Winter Spires off, you can start game before fight health as the minions pushing. But you could see before Kahlua doing a great job with the Imperial Sigils. Of course, it's not going to do much damage as you're playing the roam support Lyra, but was just doing a great job of constantly catching out Quisi and Def Q from backing.
Yep, we do see all three members of Impunity once again in that of lane, just trying to apply as much pressure as they can, not allowing Baby to farm, but we looking over at CS and talking about farming. Baby 48 CS as compared to Def Q's 35. But, going back to CS, or rather not going back to it, but leaving that aside, we all know Impunity, what they excel at is teamwork and basically just moving and maneuvering very strategically in a sense where in the late game it doesn't quite matter in terms of CS. They just can't win just based on team fights alone, and if they win just 1 or 2 team fights, they can definitely catch up with their CS on Def Q for the CS, and we do see the Sorrow Blade already completed on Baby, and yet Def Q only sitting on their poison shift, definitely taking a lot of damage.
Yep, and we now see them trying to put some pressure on the turret, but are going to get punished for it. The Impale lands and followed up by the Giphian Wall will stun them up for a second, but defensive use of that death from above. Def Q going low is going to fall to the Adagio, and now the instant pressure being put on by J3X Inferno. They want this early turret. They're trying to push the minions in under there. You can see now working on that turret, needing to be careful, taking a fair few shots from it as well, but Blue City, without being able to land those Winter Spires, isn't going to be as useful and definitely not as tanky. And the 4 Barrage just has such range on it at the moment. Sky's able to kind of poke from afar. And Adagio, just as soon as he gets in there, of course, going to have so much attack speed, so much damage. And there's the death from above. Doesn't catch out Def Q quite so, but Quisi going fairly low, needs to be careful. Baby going to be in the front line, gets caught out on the Valkyrie. This is going to be the turnaround from Impunity as they catch out 1, but not 2. They get Baby and Bim. They could go for a return turret. It's only Kahlua protecting it at the moment, and they're going to push their advantage here.
Yep, they can definitely push this turret. The amount of damage coming from Blue City and Def Q on this very early game build Vox, and now the next blood might just go down, or rather go to Impunity if Kahlua just continues staying there, not able to catch out Def Q on that TP, means that Kahlua will not find the kill for herself or for himself. But that changed. Basically what happened then was they just overextended, just put themselves out of position, so much so that, Impunity can just take advantage of that. Like I mentioned before, Impunity works the best as a team, in a team, and they can basically capitalize on every little mistake that you make throughout, because their macro plays really just, outscales a lot of teams' macros overall. DevQ opting for the poison shift in the early game, going into the breaking point, means that he is going for the very cheap build. So early game, he definitely will have the power spike. This Tail and Tower definitely will go down to the likes of J3X Inferno if they continuously push this lane out.
Ooh, but maybe not if they get caught out and impale, but there's going to be a Verse of Judgment in return. Doesn't stun anyone out, and it's just going to be Baby stuck in the middle, getting caught out. Kahlua now getting chased down by DefQ. Will they be able to pick up the kill? It looks like they're going to let them roam free, but meanwhile, 9bibim in the jungle trying to escape the clutches of Blue City, and Queasy was able to push Queasy off, but Blue City is going to be on the chase, deciding to leave it for now. So good job, and you can see the potential here with the Sky play, that into the late game team fights can get turned around if they're able to position themselves correctly and not get caught up like they did before. And the problem was that rarely you could see them being so over-aggressive, and they got punished for it. You really need to be careful against this kind of team with such good lockdown between the Lance and the Rhyme. And meanwhile, if you're so focused on getting away from them, Vox is just going to be dancing around you as he always does, building up those breaking point stacks, and yeah, just becoming a menace into the late game.
Yep, looking over to build. Impunity, or rather DevQ on that Vox, has got the poison shift, has got a breaking point, a lot of attack speed, a lot of chance to build up damage. And talking about damage,
yep, we see that there's a lot going down across the board, and Baby gonna be the first to fall again. Lyra is going to use those boots to get out of there, and it looks like they are going to be able to find the safety of their own jungle. But meanwhile, Impunity, looking for more, might go for this gold miner. They do pop the vision on it, so I don't believe there'd be a contest, but perhaps Kahlua and 9bibim don't want to just let this go over into the hands of Impunity. Going to try and do something here. Kahlua needs to be careful, however, is already quite low. And there we go. Luckily, DefQ able to push away Kahlua and 9bibim and help their team just secure that safely. And then we look over to the gold lead so far. I mean, both teams have a turret in their name now, but the kills going over in favor of Impunity, having 6-2, and it's pushed them up to 22.6k over to the side of 20.5k. So they're a fair bit ahead here, not too much, and it's definitely, you know, the side of Inferno are able to catch up on this. They just need to be careful going into these fights. Baby, always the first one to fall, and it seems like it's quite tough for the Adagio. He really has to stand still a lot of the time when attacking, or at least isn't so mobile, and that's why I said at the start of the game why I thought, you know, it's definitely going to be quite an Impunity-favored game because of the fact of the only team on Inferno that only team member on Inferno that really has that mobility as the Sky.
And we saw this team lineup before, and we saw this composition before. Just in our first game, our first series, the first game of the first series, we saw Rhyme going up against Adagio, and Rhyme just does so well because of how immobile that Adagio is. And as long, I mean, 9bibim is there, true, to just keep Rhyme off with those fault barrage, but it's just not enough just yet. I mean, 9bibim really needs that Frostburn going into the Dragon's Eye just to build up the extra stacks, extra CP, for the extra slow as well. And the amount of CCs coming out of 9bibim, if she goes for the Dragon's Eye very early in the game, will be immense and tremendously helpful in team fights. But at this point in time, we are looking at 9bibim, and she is settling for the piercing shot. Not a bad pickup, 12% shield pierce. Shield pairs have been changed. Minimizer mentioned it. I mentioned it in the previous game. But 9bibim, on this Sky, I just don't quite feel... I'm not quite feeling the build coming out from the Sky at all. Dragon's Eye would have been a much better item pickup with that Frostburn. It just gels so well. It works so well, that Frostburn. And with that Dragon's Eye, you can just build up so much stack in such a short period of time. If you just stay in a team fight. I mean, for a barrage lasts for like what? I think like what, 6 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, something along those seconds line. But yeah, I'm quite unsure. But so
I don't think it's 6 seconds, but
yeah, I don't think
it's
so,
a fair few seconds, and I understand your item choice kind of consideration there as to why you should pick up the Dragon's Eye instead. And I think overall, this patch of Dragon's Eye just such a great item, and as I said before, really brings out the strengths of a lot of new heroes and has shaped the meta in a lot of ways. Hence why Rhyme, being one of those heroes, is also quite good with the Dragon's when you get into those fights. However, both of these heroes here, Sky and Rhyme, have neither gone for this Dragon's Eye yet. And I think it's quite tough in general just for itemization with Sky still. Sky can be alright, but as a Sky main, I think that there are just a lot better CP picks out there at the moment. In this situation, however, against the Rhyme, it wasn't a bad pick to really, you don't want to be up in Rhyme's face. You don't want to have to go on a 1v1 directly with him. Instead, you want someone who can kite around him.
Well, definitely. I mean, that Rhyme coming out from the side of Impunity was definitely not a surprising pick. I mentioned in the first game, in the first series, Rhyme so very strong currently, and yet not a lot of teams are actually prioritizing him in terms of bans. I mean, they probably have got some way to work around Rhyme in, you know, ranked games or even like scrimmages that they had between each other. But, you know, coming into a competition at this level, Rhyme should be considered as a worthy ban through and through. He's just so very strong. He works very well with CC heavy comms, and it just protects the back lines so well because of the amount of fortified health that Rhyme receives, right? The longer he stays in a team fight, the more fortified health he gets, and with the Spire just gives him so much more tankiness than he needs, right, to stay in the team fight. I mean, granted, a lot of players have thought maybe 2.9.1 has seen enough, right? Rhyme saw enough. Maybe it doesn't work as well anymore, but we are saying so that, you know, teams can still play Rhyme. Rhyme is so still very strong. And another thing that I'll mention would be Lance. Right, in the first game, second game, third game of the first series, we did not see no priority over this Lance or any form of emphasis whatsoever. It's almost as if Lance kind of have phased out of meta. But now we do see that Impunity bring out this Lance and just playing so well, sneaking a gold mine under J3X's noses.
Yep, and that's going to push that gold lead even further. Now they're sitting at 32.9k over to the 29k on the side of J3X Inferno. So if they really are falling behind here slowly and slowly, I mean, as to say that it's not lost yet, as I mentioned before, and it's all going to come down to the team fights, but right now it really just doesn't look like J3X Inferno want to go looking for those team fights. And do you think they're better off to try get those team fights now with early Kraken being up rather than risking it and waiting so much longer into the late game?
Well, I think in the late game, DefQ on this Fox, although I constantly say that this build is for the cheap, I may have to hold my point.
Yep, we see the wait for it coming out onto Baby. Whether Impunity are going to push off that one is the question. They will be waiting for Queasy more than likely to land the Impale for a good solid engage. Blue Z trying to push up through the top of that brush there. Does land the Winter Spire, but as you said before, is going to need to use those boots if he really wants to commit to something. But I do think for the side of Impunity, they're being quite patient here, waiting for Queasy to actually go over the wall with the Impale. Lands on Deny Bim Bim. Death from above going to be used. Valkyrie manages to land on the backline, but doesn't stun up anyone, but it's going to open up opportunity for DefQ to get onto Baby. Great use of the Githian wall to pull him there. Queasy so very low, but it doesn't matter because DefQ in that front line doing work. Game those breaking point stacks is going to be able to take out Baby and Night Bim Bim once again. Kahlua on their own, and DefQ able to take a turret with that. Might even push for more, knowing that Kahlua is only there. Not really going to be able to stop them unless they're able to clear those minions, which luckily it's the least Kahlua can do. And now we do go over to the rest of the team of Impunity who are making work on this Kraken. They're definitely going to be able to take it. And now there's a bit of trouble. 3 turrets left for the side of J3X Inferno, and they're going to have to go face-to-face with Impunity as they push in. So now they are forced to fight. They lost the opportunity to choose their engagements, as they're now going to have to defend their base. And we do see Lyra getting caught out with the Githian wall. Death from above does not catch out Queasy, though. Great use of the Impale. Queasy just doing amazing work on Lance this match. And we see Blue City going to chase down Sky. DefQ picking up the kill there. And now Baby is the last one left standing there in such a worse position than they would have been anyway, having to go up against Impunity defending their base, because now they're all going to get taken down. There's the ace, and that's more than likely going to be game with a full health Kraken pushing in and the turrets falling so quickly.
What a controlled game, and such a paced game from the side of Impunity, definitely showing they are still the top dogs, they are still very, very strong. Granted, I want to say that J3X Inferno did not draft in any form, in any way terrible, but just looking over the DevQ's build. So constantly for a while now, I said that, you know, Vox's build generally is very, very cheap, very economical. It works very well in the early game because of the poison shift for the extra sustain into the mid game, but it falls out in the late game. However, DevQ on this Vox changed it around, you know, and just do it, you know, in such a way where he go for the poison shift into the breaking point and then settle for 2 Tyrants Monaco. That is a late game build. That needs a lot of farm, and DevQ definitely executed this Vox and it's built very, very well.
Yep, and I do think that the side of Impunity, as for that draft being good at the start, I thought overall they did execute their builds, their plays well, and you're right, it did seem very controlled by the side of Impunity, and I mean Impunity, another one of those top teams. It's why they get there. They always, or I wouldn't say always, but you can say definitely most of the time these guys are in control of the matches that they play, and they really get to force and flow the game the way they want.
Yep, and okay, and Impunity has always shown us how deliberate they were. They are in terms of engagement. And we saw in one of the fights in the very early game when J3X Inferno was on a 3-man siege on the first turret of Impunity. I mentioned then that J3X just overstepped the boundary just a little bit, giving the side of Impunity a slight advantage when DevQ came back with extra items, immediately deleting both Aya Baby and Nai Bim Bim. On that, leaving Kalua to just protect and hold that turret,